Have you already reached the $10,000 amount for hazard pay under a second stimulus package? And how do you calculate it? Hey everybody, this is LALATE with the second stimulus check and stimulus package update today. This is our second of 5 videos. This one's about hazard pay. That $10,000 lump sum which could land in your bank account if the HEROES Act is approved. Today I'm going to be going over the calculation, which is really quite important. I can actually show you exactly whether or not you have reached the $10,000 as we sit here today on this recording of July 3rd. It's great news, so get out a pen and paper, and I'll be going very slowly over this with you. The CARES Act did not cover anything for essential workers, but the HEROES Act proposes to do exactly that. The HEROES Act is a bill. It was passed by the House. It is now in the Senate. And there generally is very little opposition from the two political parties as to hazard pay. They all understand that essential workers need to be compensated. And so what does hazard pay and how is it routed to you? Well, over this last week, we've been doing a lot of videos explaining all the great and bad parts of the hazard pay bill. But let me get to the calculation of it in this video. Hazard pay would pay you up to $10,000 if you made less than $100,000 last year. So how would you calculate whether or not you would get this $10,000 lump sum? Here's how you do it. It's pretty simple, actually, and I pulled out a pen and paper and I did it for you. So it's based upon $13 an hour. So what is $13 an hour into $10,000? It would require to have worked 769 hours of work as an essential worker since early July. 769 hours as an essential worker since early January. How many weeks is that? And have you reached that already? Well, let's do the calculation. That if you say you work 40 hours per week, well, 40 hours into 769 hours would be 19 weeks. In essence, it would take you 19 weeks working full-time as an essential worker to reach $10,000. Let me recap that again. It would take you 19 weeks working full-time, 40 hours a week, to reach $10,000 under a hazard pay calculation. So could you have reached that by now? Absolutely. Where are we today? Well, June 30th is the 24th week of this year. So if you've been working as an essential worker from the start of the pandemic, through the pandemic, and to today's date, and have not stopped, then you have worked over 24 weeks. And if you've worked full time, then you've clearly exceeded $10,000 and qualify for the $10,000. So this is really great news. The great news is that the way hazard pay pays you is in a lump sum. So if your job was uninterrupted during this pandemic and you continue to work full-time, 40 hours per week, every week, since January up to the present, then you qualify for that $10,000 lump sum today. Now, I know exactly the questions I'm going to get to this video, to what I just said was, I had a few days off, I got laid off, I took some hours or my reduced hours. No problem. You still can qualify for the $10,000. I'm just trying to show you how quickly you can qualify for the $10,000. So the way you do it for your personal situation, and I'm going to get to all the caveats to this shortly, is you pull out a pen and paper and you look at, okay, how many hours have I worked as an essential worker since January? And yes, the date of January is sort of fluid. It's still up to debate by members of Congress. But let's do January 1st for now. How many weeks have I worked? So you So you look at the number of weeks, and then you look at the number of hours you worked per week. If you know that, it is a number intensive calculation. If you know you worked 40 hours, if you know you worked 20 hours, it's easier. So you do that, and then you take that number and multiply it by 13. And that brings you to a grand total of where you are today. So look at how many hours you have worked since the first week of January and times that by $13. And if that number is over $10,000, bam, you are entitled to the lump sum of $10,000 for hazard pay. If you have not, then do the following. Think in your mind, are you still working as an essential worker? Great. Well, if you are, continue that forward. And I want you to continue that forward to about August 8th. You know why? Because that's generally the date that this channel has been reporting that the hazard pay bill will likely get approved by the Senate. And so, we are in the first week of July. You got 4 weeks in the month of July. You got a couple weeks in the month of August to bring you up to August 8th, maybe, I guess really 1 week. So you got 5 more weeks for this calculation. If you threw in 5 more weeks at $40 an hour, bam, you could be at that $10,000 of work by the time the fund is approved, by the time the HEROES Fund, which is the part of the HEROES Act for essential workers, is approved. It's great news. I'll be getting to 163 of your hazard pay questions from yesterday. The caveats are certainly all there, and I have been detailing them every single day. I'm going to go over them again. Some of you are not paid on the hour. How do you do the calculation? I don't know. All I'm saying is contact your congressman, because there are clear errors, and this is the bad part of the news. There are clear bad parts in this proposal for hazard pay. The bad parts are, one, how do you get paid if you're paid per job? How do we do the calculation? I mean, I can't do the calculation for you. You see how easy it was for me to do the calculation for you if you're paid on the hourly. But what if you're paid per job? What are we going to do? I mean, one of the obvious answers would be, okay, how many hours does it take you to do the job? But that's up for the employer to agree upon it with you. I mean, if they don't, wow. I mean, how does one calculate this? 2, what if your employer doesn't submit you for hazard pay? You don't get paid. The most incredulously bad part of this bill, you are at the disposal of your employer submitting you for hazard pay. And if they don't, and they're not required to, you are screwed. It is absolutely horrific. 3rd, what is essential workers? Well, essential workers is not, the definition of essential workers is really not something that worries me. It's whether or not your employer treats you as an essential worker. So, for example, FedEx and UPS delivery guys, absolutely essential, and guys and gals, absolutely essential workers. But if one of them don't submit you for hazard pay, boy, I mean, it's just horrible. It's really, really quite horrible. There's so many other things that are at issue. And this is why you need to contact your congressman or congressperson's staff in the next couple of weeks so that these are flushed out by the time the bill gets to a discussion in late July. Now, you remember early in the video I said to you, okay, $10,000 if you made up to $100,000 last year. And you're thinking, oh, I had a good year last year. What happens to me? Well, if you made over $100,000 last year, then you can only get $5,000 under hazard pay. So you would do the same calculation, and you would only get $5,000. So actually, it would take you less weeks to get to $5,000 than it does to $10,000. Next, I get this question a lot. A lot of people say, hey, I had 2 essential worker jobs. Do I get $10,000 twice? No. Do both employers know that of one another? And will they cross-check? Probably not. So I don't know what's going to happen with that either. And it makes an accounting nightmare. I'll tell you why. Let's say you only did $2,000 worth of work at one employer and you did $1,000 worth of work at another employer, and you're at another job now. Well, how does that another job know that you still can run up all the way to $10,000? It makes a lot of trouble. Let me get to some of your 163 comments from yesterday. Eleanor, are businesses going to be forced to file for their employees? Yeah, they're no. The way the bill is written, they do not have to file. They may file, which is really quite horrible. Or will the workers get screwed if the company chooses not to bother? Yes, they will get screwed. Drop in the comments how angry you are. I'm furious. I think it's absolutely horribly written. Alice, if you work for the government and they call you essential, will they pay you hazard pay? Yes, but they have to apply. Political Lil, get 1 minute in and not beat me to the party. DSW, once the employers get the money for the essential workers, watch them hold on to the money for a while before they give it to their employees. They'll probably invest it before giving it away. I can see this happening. I would agree. That's a lot of money. Imagine if you have 500 employees, $10,000 per employee. That's a lot of money. They can hold on to the money for 2-3 months and get interest on it. Boy, there is absolutely nothing in the law that mandates how they disperse the money to you, how quickly, how slowly. They can just hold the money and just get interest on your money. Anthony, what about the oil fields been working this whole time? Yes, absolutely. Steve Bivens, question, I'm a sole proprietor and would qualify for hazard pay. Would I be able to apply for myself? Yeah, that was the other caveat I forgot. Great question, Steve. Sole proprietors, how do you apply for yourself? I remember the very first video I did on this, it was a substitute teacher. She, there's a lot of people who are sole proprietors that might be essential workers. How do you apply for yourself? Plumbers, electricians? Most plumbers and electricians are sole proprietors. Have you ever heard of a plumber that works for a company? Very few work for a company this day and age. Most work for themselves. And they are a one-man shop. They are absolutely, categorically 100% essential workers. How do they apply for themselves? Many of them are paid on the job. They go out and, fix your plumbing for the day and give you a bill, and here it is. They don't bill on the hour, so how do they do it? Mary Walker, I don't think they should leave it up to the employers. I work for a lab. We have not gotten hazard pay at all. Well, you haven't gotten because it hasn't passed, but I agree 100% with you, Mary. Brenda, does the $13 go on top of regular pay for also include OT hours? Yes. So this would include OT hours. So when you're calculating your hazard pay that I did at the beginning, include overtime hours. It's any hours you work. Ethel, how did you watch the president? Did you watch the president give us a stimulus update? It's good news. Yes, I did. Paul Brianna. I always watch your videos. So informative, you explain it so well. I have a question. I started working again at a grocery store last May 28th. Am I qualified to receive hazard pay if the bill got approved? Thank you and more power. Yes. The bill doesn't state the what do you call it? The sunset period. The sunset period is usually when the hazard pay period expires. Like we will pay people who are working as essential workers from January till that. There's no till date to make it very simple. There's no until date in the bill. So May 20th, yes, absolutely. You are an essential worker. Grocery workers are essential workers. And the fact that you started in May 28th is nothing to be concerned about. Now, the bill can get butchered. I will update you if the bill gets butchered and they only pay essential workers up to, March or June or something. But as of the moment, it does not have an expiration date or sunset date. Annette, and what about home health care? Absolutely essential. Deborah, when will this come? I'm on disability. Please tell me if I can get help. So this would be for essential workers and it would come up for a vote in late July. Rainbow, I just want to hear your voice. Well, thank you. That's very kind. Brenda, would they be taxing the $13 an hour or would it be on top of the whole wage? That is a great question, Brenda. It says in the bill that the $13 is subject to payroll tax. So you could see an accounting of it with your employer. I can't explain it more because it's still not clear from the bill, but it does say it is subject to payroll tax. So I'm not quite clear what that means. If you get the full $13,000 or it means that the employer pays just the payroll tax on it. When I'm sitting here today, my understanding, 90%, is that you get the full $10,000. It's just that the employer has to pay to the state more money, not take money from you. That's my understanding so far. I'm about 90% positive on that. David, I enjoy the fact that you're talking about this so frequently. I work in a grocery store. I have serious doubts. I feel that I'm working in a big company would take advantages. Well, if you're in a grocery store, I hope you have a union. If you don't have a union, I would reach out to the grocery union because, boy, that is bad hat. If you work in a grocery store and this gets passed and they do not apply for hazard pay for you because you're non-unionized, ooh, it is really, really, really troubling. That's why there's grocery unions out there. They're really protecting employees quite well. Yvonne Norris, I've been working ever since, but most employers don't care about their employees and won't get nothing. Vanessa, 13 hours to what I already made. Wow, I can't wait for this. Yes, it's a lot of money. Chris Z, employers should be given a certain amount of time to distribute the hazard pay. Very well said. The law should say must. The law actually, the way the bill is written says they do not have to, which is crazy. What is this, a voluntary program? Peggy, well, I think they're just playing with people. Michael, where would the employees get the paperwork to fill out for their employers? It would be a federal document. We just don't have it yet. Annette, passing it on to the families' RNs, Core on healthcare. Linda, are we getting our stimulus money for ourselves or the government, or is the government? That's our other video for today. What about school employees, Donald Dew, who had to work through the pandemic? That's a really good question. There's certain ones that really, there are answers to them. I don't always have the answer. Essential workers is defined by federal law. It's also defined at a local level. And you can see that, those definitions. And there's certain ones I know by heart. There are other ones I don't know by heart. And I don't know about teachers. May not be included. BB Adams, would include overtime. Yes, absolutely. So you use the overtime hours in the calculation. Jill, my fiance was laid off from his restaurant job, took 3 weeks of unemployment, then got into food production, working in a loading bay. Would any of this count? So the food production might work. A distribution and food delivery, which is sort of like shipping the food to the grocery store, shipping the food to the suppliers. That is clearly essential. The restaurant is not essential. So yes, he would qualify for the second one. Lashisa. Let's wait and see what happens to the bill. Amy, we're all essential workers. Unfortunately, we are not. It's like say, I am essential. No, not everyone is essential. I mean, you're all essential in my book. I mean, here I am kissing up to the viewers, but it's true. You are all essential in my book, but in the face of the U.S. government, you are not all essential. Joanne Baxter, do employers get anything for doing their work and administrative fee? Oh, that's a great question. No, which is more troubling, and I detailed that in yesterday's video. If the employers have to spend hundreds of hours in bookkeeping for this, do you think an employer is going to do that for free? I don't think so. I don't think an employer is going to spend hundreds of hours in intense bookkeeping, which this is, to disperse money which they don't get to their employers, to their employees, some of which they may no longer employ. There's a lot of reasons of why which an employer would never give a darn about this, or if they saw it, still would not want to do it because it just costs them money. You know what this sounds like? I'm going to be really blunt about it. I tell the good and the bad. You know what this sounds like? It sounds like the PPP program at the very beginning. You remember the very beginning that the PPP program was launched? Banks complained that they were not going to make enough money on the government's PPP loan program and said, we don't want to do it. We're not going to make enough money on it. I would not be surprised if employers say, we don't want to be involved with this hazard pay. We aren't making a penny on it. It's going to cost us a lot of money to do this calculation, send out the money. If you have questions in today's video, drop them in the comments below, and we may feature them in tomorrow's recording. Coming up, 3 other second stimulus check videos. We're doing 5 today. First, this check itself, SSDI, SSI, and Social Security as well. The third video is PUA, UI, and unemployment benefits, and FPUC, that federal $600 from the federal government. Fourth video is on rental assistance, a grant program to give you free rent. You need to watch that video. And our fifth video is a new scandalous scandal of that shook your head is going to roll about EIDL. I mean, it is a scandal like I never saw before. As always, stay with LA for more.